Monday, June 7th, and this is another episode of Let There Be Talk. And in the great words of the mighty Bon Scott, let there be drums. And there was drums. That's right. It is another legendary drummer right here. And I cannot even tell you how badass this guy is and how great this episode is. I love talking to this man. Mr. Matt Chamberlain is here today. I want to just give you a little rundown. He's played with Springsteen, Elton John, Bowie, Fiona Apple, Tori Amos, Wallflowers, Macy Gray, The Who, and many others. He also has a brand new band with the great Stone Gossard called Painted Shield. And for the last few years, he has been Bob Dylan's drummer. Yeah, you know that up-and-comer Bob Dylan? He played on the incredible legendary track, the first number one song for Bob Dylan, Murder Most Foul, a 17-minute song that went number one. I first discovered this guy from the incredible masterpiece Wallflowers record, Bringing Down the Horse, and I've followed Matt's career ever since. He also did a smoking tour with Soundgarden. He was behind the kit while Matt Chamberlain had to do a tour with Pearl Jam. So he's done it all. He has great stories. Born and raised out there in San Pedro, California, land of the old Waters Club, the old punk rock club. It was great to talk to him. And just man, solid human. I want to give a huge shout out to a Super Del Raiser and a Patreoner, Elisa Jordan, for setting this up. She is absolutely fantastic and just a great human also. So thank you so much. I got some sponsors today. Yes, CBD Lion. If you are a drummer, which you probably are listening to this, you know you got a little joint ache. You know you have some trouble sleeping. You know you have some anxiety, wondering when your next gig is going to happen. Get some CBD Lion and cool the engines. Cool the engines with some tinctures. Or get yourself some topicals. I use the lotions on my messed up neck. Or get yourself some hemp flower, or get your pet, your dog, your little doo-doo, your baby doo-doo. Get your pet some CBD. CBD Lion, my incredible sponsor now for a long time, and they keep me alive, believe it or not. And I love them, and I want you guys to use the code DEAN, DEAN, at checkout for 20% off. I use CBD. I don't make it up. And I tell you, CBD Lion is the Superman of CBD. Completely third-party tested and clean. None of that truck stop bullshit. Get some gummies, get some pre-rolls, get the hemp flower. They got the yummy gummies. They got vegan CBD gummies. Yes, vegan for you plant-based humans out there. CBDLion.com. And also, I want to give a big shout out to a drink I've been drinking lately that just makes me feel pretty damn good. Recess. 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 Check it out. Canned good feeling juice is what I call it. Canned good feeling juice. Recess. They're offering 10% off right now. Enter a code when you put in your email, and they'll give you 10% off. This stuff is fantastic. It's like a sparkling water with some infused good stuff in there. And I love it. It's an antidote to modern times, they call it. And I believe in this stuff. I love all this kind of hippie spiritual good juices, stuff from the planet. I drink coconut lime and peach ginger. And I love them both. Whoa, here's a new one. Black cherry. I haven't tried that. Anyway, Recess. So, yeah. Tour dates are happening. DeanDelRey.com. This weekend, I'm going to be in Elko, Nevada with my buddy Halen. We're going to be out there telling jokes, and there's a few tickets left. Elko, Nevada. Do a road trip. Just get yourself some psychedelics and head out to Elko, Nevada for some laughs. Tickets at deandelray.com. Also, I am doing the Sacramento Punchline and also Fort Worth, Texas at Billy Bob's with Jay Buchanan from the Great Rival Sons. He'll be singing songs. I'll be telling jokes. It's rock and comedy out there in Texas. Patreon.com/DeanDelRay for all your bonus episodes and the Zoom Fest. I'll be doing a Zoom Fest tonight, a matter of fact, with all the Super Del Raisers. And I want to give a shout out to a new Super Del Raiser, Jeanette. She is on Patreon. I love all you guys, and I cannot thank you enough for your support and keeping my head semi-sane. I mean that. I'm glad you're here listening to the show. Thank you, Matt, for doing the show. Holy shit, you are a great drummer. The candles are lit. Here we go, Matt Chamberlain. I think I've had, 10 years, I've had some of the best drummers on the planet, and today is no exception. It's an honor to have you on. I know who you are, but introduce yourself.
Thanks. My name's Matt Chamberlain. I play the round things.
Yeah, you play the
drums.
The tubs.
The tubs.
Some people call them the tubs.
The tubs and the cymbals. The metals and the round bits.
Yeah, yep. I've said it over and over. Show me a great band, and I'll show you a great drummer. There's no great bands with bad drummer, you know? So, you believe that?
Yeah. I mean, if you have a good singer and a good groove back there,
yeah,
you can get away with a lot. A lot of bands have.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the magic formula.
Yeah. I first hear about you, of course, I'm very tight with Jacob Dylan for, 30 years now. And Bringing Down the Horse comes out. And I'm like, wow, this record sounds great. Who's playing the drums? It's you. And from then on, I kind of followed your career. But the really interesting thing I would think would be, and I'm sure you've told the story a million times, but you're the second drummer in Pearl Jam. Mm-hmm. And then you shoot the Alive video. And then you get the SNL gig and you leave. Let's go back to that and what that was like. Because nobody knew that Pearl Jam was going to blow up. Now, did you do the Alice in Chains tour? Because I booked that Mookie Blaylock, the small club tour.
No, that wasn't me.
Okay.
I mean, I literally filled in for like 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And it was like, I was in a band before that with Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians.
Right.
And we had just broken up. I got this call from Pearl Jam's A&R guy, Michael Goldstone, and he said there's this band in Seattle that needs a drummer. They're doing this tour. Would you be into doing it? And I was like, well, sure. He sent me the, 10.
Yeah.
It was before it came out. This was like the summer before it came out. And I was like, yeah, sure. This is really cool. I didn't even know what it was. I was like, oh, it just sounds like the Doors with like hard rock behind it to me. That's what it reminded me of.
Right.
That record. And so I went out there and we played for like 3 days, and then we hopped in a van and drove all the way across the country to the East Coast to do this little promo tour. And we were opening up for local bands. It was all in like small clubs. We played, I think the last gig on that little run was like at Wetlands. Remember that club in New York City?
Oh, yeah.
And we played, it was part of the Music Fest, was it the CMJ?
Right. Oh, yeah, CMJ.
Yeah, so we played there.
So they're like, like a press junket for CMJ. Kind of like that stuff like Concrete Convention or...
Yeah, it was like, it was that music festival. They had, I don't know if they had it anymore, but they used to have it every year. It was like all the new bands, all the new upcoming bands. It's kind of like South by Southwest before South by Southwest.
Yeah.
But we played there, and then I can't remember what happened. I think maybe I flew home. I was living in Dallas, and so flew home, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna do this video. We still don't have a drummer that is in our band."
So they don't want you in. You're just filling in.
Well, it was offered to like join this band after like hanging out with them for like 6 days.
Yeah.
Like, hey, do you want to just like move to a different city and play in this band that with these guys you don't even know?
Yeah.
And play this music you have nothing to do with.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to New York, and I mean, I did have an offer to play in the SNL gig, but the reason I wanted to move to New York was to take drum lessons and just get my mind blown by all the insane drummers that live there.
Right.
And just get better as a musician.
And who were those guys that you were digging in with?
In New York?
Yeah, like who did you want to take lessons with?
Like Jack DeJohnette, the drummer, famous jazz drummer who played with Miles and Charles Lloyd. I mean, everybody. I mean, he's like an icon.
Right.
And then there were guys in town that were just playing around town that are probably more well known just in New York.
Yeah,
Local, like
that East Village scene.
Yeah, like there's kind of like Joey Barron was part of like that whole knitting factory shit, all that out stuff with John Zorn and there were a lot of guys I didn't take lessons from, but I just went and saw them play all the time, like Ronald Shannon Jackson's band.
Wow,
you know that band?
Yeah,
with Vernon Reid.
Yeah.
And then just all the punk shit that was going on. Like when I was growing up, I grew up out here in San Pedro, and so I was exposed to all that music growing up. Like the Minutemen were like the local band. You go see the Minutemen play in somebody's backyard.
Yeah, or the Waters Club. Remember that place?
That was 3 blocks from my house.
Wow, I played that place numerous times. They had that
with the taxidermy shit behind the stage. Like
and the waterfall. Remember? That's where they filmed the scenes for Raging Bull, where he's in there and he's like, I come around, I tell that it's supposed to be his club where he gets arrested.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But we used to go there all the time because it was all ages.
Yeah.
And, most of the bands, I don't even remember because I was there with my buddies and we're trying to score beer and But I did see like Black Flag and Bad
It was
Brains
famous club, man. Famous club.
Just all those bands. And so and all my friends were in bands like that when I was growing up. But I was a total music geek, I was into Neil Peart.
Oh, yeah. Was that your guy? Is that how you get into drums?
Well, I mean, before then, it was always like my older brothers. I mean, my friends' older brothers had bands, and we'd always watch them rehearse. We'd watch them rehearse in the garage. Like
of course.
They'd play like Iron Maiden tunes and whatever, all that shit, like all the classic rock stuff. So
I mean, we're the same age, so we come from the same world. It's interesting to think that you grew up and we're into Maiden and Clive and all that, and getting into Rush. I could see a lot of drummers get into that. And then you land into Edie Brickell, which was really that kind of Horde tour kind of thing that was happening. Mm-hmm. But you were in Edie Brickell, what is that, late 80s?
That was late 80s. Yeah, because, I moved to Texas. See, I grew up out here, graduated, got a scholarship to go to North Texas State University, which is a big music school. It's kind of like, Berkeley School of Music, North Texas State.
I never heard of it.
Oh, they have like a jazz program, and a lot of drummers have been through that program, like Keith Carlock. I don't know if you ever check him out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of, there's like a tradition of great musicians that go through there. So I thought, oh, shit, I got a scholarship, I should go, And so I moved there, and within a semester, I dropped out because I realized they wanted to turn me into a music teacher, and I had no intention of doing that. I wanted to play in bands and play music with people. And so in Dallas at the time, there was a great music scene down there in Deep Ellum, that area.
Yeah.
And so I ended up just moving down there, and there were all these clubs like Trees and Club Dada and Prophet Bar and Theater Gallery where I saw Reverend Horton Heat played every Monday night.
Oh, love him, man. $400.
Yeah, he played every Monday night at Prophet Bar. And there was like this whole music scene down there, and Edie Brickell was part of it. They were a band already. They were playing just locally, and I was in another band. It was a very small music scene. And what happened with them is they got signed to a record deal around like 87, 88 to Geffen Records. Went to go do their record in Wales.
Whoa.
With this super producer guy. I can't remember his name now. But so they kicked the drummer out because it was the 80s and you had to play it like perfectly to a click track. And
the producer's like, this guy's dragging.
We're going to get a studio musician in here.
Yeah.
And so they did that. And when they got back from doing it. The drummer quit. He's like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
And the bass player in the New Bohemians was my roommate, and he was like, hey, you should play. I jammed with them, and they're like, cool, you're in the band. And so,
wow.
you know, it was such a small little music community.
Yeah.
There was another drummer in town named Aaron Comus at the time who actually moved to New York and started the Spin Doctors.
Wow.
And he lived down the street from us. I mean, there was a cool little, but it was definitely full on jam band. Like, we would just get together and just improvise.
I love that
just,
shit.
You know, we just.
It started brewing, man. By the time the Horde tour hits, you know, you got Blues Traveler, Spin Doctors, Edie Brickell, Black Crowes are now jamming. You know, they've ditched their sound, and it was all the spin-off of Allman Brothers are on their next super big. They starting to be huge again, and all of that is getting big. And then of course the Dead is doing their thing, Rat Dog and all that. So it just really boomed. Blind Melon is mixed into that.
Yeah, and like Fish. And
yeah,
all
Fish.
The whole jam band community kind of started to solidify in the U.S. around then. But, you know, we broke up right before the Horde tour even started.
Right.
Like, we broke up in 90, and we did 2 records, and then Edie got married to Paul Simon.
Yeah, that's right.
And she's like, see you guys.
Yeah. Wow. I don't play music anymore.
I'm just going to go make some kids and chill out.
Yeah.
No, she does music still. Actually, they're a band still. They did a new record with the original drummer that quit.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's back in the band, so whatever.
So they offer you Pearl Jam the spot after 6 days, and it was pretty much, I mean, look, no one knew 10 was going to be what it is, and nobody knew that grunge was going to be a grunge or whatever.
No.
But what was the van tour like? Because they're like basically Eddie's new to them also, you know?
Yeah. we were like sharing hotel rooms. You know, it was like bare bones. Like, I had to loan Stone $20 because he was broke. You know, like that kind of shit. It was
wow.
We were like barely making it out there.
Wow.
So for me at the time, even though they were telling me it was going to be a huge band, it just wasn't my path. You know, I just didn't feel like this was my shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you didn't play on the record, and you're just kind of thrown into a situation.
It's like, fine, you can make millions of dollars, but what good is that if you're not down with the music? You know, like if you're going to be in a band, that's like, it's like getting married to a bunch of people. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I just didn't know them long enough to even make that kind of decision. I was like, you know, you guys are awesome, and I'm sure you're going to kill it. And obviously they did, but I got to do something else. You know, I moved to New York and had my own shit going on.
Where'd you land there? What neighborhood?
Well, when I first moved there, see, the guy that was the band leader at SNL, G.E. Smith.
Oh, I love him.
He had, this was kind of awesome. He had an apartment that he was renting on Central Park West from Lorne Michaels.
Wow.
And it was the penthouse of that building that like Sting and Lorne Michaels live in. And he's like, oh, you can just come and just crash out at my pad until you find a place to live.
Wow.
And so I was like, fuck yeah. So I didn't own anything. I just had my futon and my drum kit and my car, and I just drove up to New York and.
From Dallas?
From Dallas, yeah.
You actually brought a car.
Yeah, I was. You know, I didn't realize New York is the worst place for a car. But,
yeah.
Luckily, that place had a parking garage, and so I lived there as long as I could.
How long were you there?
Because I just was, you know, I was like, man, I'm gonna look for a place to live, and so I wanted to find a place where I could play drums, but
impossible.
It was impossible. But I did find I had some friends in Brooklyn and Park Slope that had a place above auto part repair place, and I could jam there at night, and they let me crash out there for a couple months, but it got weird, so I ended up just moving to Woodstock.
Whoa, really? All the way up there, and you would commute in to do SNL?
Yeah, you just go down once a week.
Oh, that's right, once a week.
The rest of the week, you just hang out up there. I had this full-on house to myself, looking out over the Ashokan Reservoir. I could jam on drums. Like, my backyard was this mountain bike trail. I could, like, ride into town, get some coffee.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was awesome. I loved it. And Woodstock has an incredible amount of amazing musicians that live there.
Yeah.
Like Tony Levin.
Oh, yeah.
The bass player. that drummer, Jack DeJohnette, David Torn, who's this experimental guitar player that I became really good friends with, who's just a genius. I mean, he's played on a bunch of Bowie records, and just a lot of people, a lot of creative folks up there. And
would you just drive in
to the
to
city?
SNL?
Yeah, I just wake up. It was like Saturday morning would be like wake up at ungodly, 7 a.m., drive into the city for the 10 a.m. rehearsal. We'd rehearse till like 1, take a break, and then do the 2 shows, because there's like the rehearsal show and then there's the real show.
Yeah.
And then after the show, I just drive back in a daze, or I'd crash out at somebody's place that I knew and do it the next day. But
what was that SNL gig like? Well, it's like you're only playing like once a week, so you go in and you're rehearsing. What songs does like Gigi just pick the songs and you're just playing the intro, right? And
you play like a little pre-gig thing before the show, like a little
for the audience,
little mini set. And GE would have different people show up and sit in with us. Like, GE's a big blues guy, so he'd have like Johnny Winter would come down and sit in with us, or Butterfield.
Paul Butterfield, rad.
Jimmy Witherspoon, the blues harmonica player. I mean, all these legends would just come down and sit in. Then they just sit with the band for the whole show, and we just play. It was pretty simple stuff. It'd be like blues and G, 3, 4, boom, 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 into the commercial break.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was more of just like a silly house band gig for.
Right.
I mean, that's what it is. It's not like you're gonna blow anybody's mind or anything.
And in the meantime, you're seeing some incredible bands that are coming in and playing, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, that was, and it's funny because that was the year that Pearl Jam came.
I knew it.
I remember I showed up that one morning. They'd had rehearsal the day before, and they like wrote all this shit all over my drum kit and like, defaced my cymbals. And but that was a great season because we had Nirvana played.
Wow.
Pearl Jam, Public Enemy.
Whoa. Is that the Fear of the Black Planet era?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old Flavor Flav came down and
Fight the Power. I love that.
Flavor Flav played my drum kit. I gave him a drum lesson on the break.
Really? Wow.
But and that was also the year of Wayne's World.
Oh,
that was the
big sketch. Wow, that's cool. Like Aerosmith's coming by or whatever.
It was so funny. It was the year that movie came out. But that to me was just more of like a employment opportunity to be in New York.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, that's got to be great for you because you're working one day a week and the rest of the time you could go see these jazz guys you want to see.
Practice and like jam with people. Oh, and also in Woodstock, Dr. No and Daryl from Bad Brains lived there.
Wow.
And so we'd get together and just jam.
Whoa.
Like they just come to my place. Like Daryl would bring up his big-ass SVT rig and it would just be like, just whatever, just jam,
Oh, that's so cool.
So I learned a lot from those guys. I think they still live there. Like Dr. No was working at the produce stand. There's like this organic produce stand in Woodstock that sells like, flowers and plants, but they have like a little produce thing where they serve like smoothies and he's been there for years.
How do you get into the drums when you're young? Was it drums at the beginning right away, or did you like, guitar or whatever? Because my first thing was drums, and after 2 weeks I go, this ain't for me. But we grew up in that era of Ted Nugent, Boston, AC/DC, Van Halen. So then I go to guitar, and then there's a million guitar players, and there's no singers. Then I end up being a singer. But how does it happen for you?
I don't know. The first thing I wanted to play was drums. It's just, drums are expensive.
Oh my God, right?
I mean, all my friends had drums. Like for some reason, like my best friend Jerry had a drum kit, and I was like, dude, you got to let me come over and play your drum kit.
Yeah.
Please. And like his brother was in a band, and the drummer had this amazing Sonar drum kit that cost like, $8,000. And
whoa.
I was like, man, that's incredible. Can I just watch you guys rehearse?
Was he like a weed dealer? Because weed dealers would have the best gear back then. Remember that? You go to a weed dealer's house, you go, dude, I got 4 Marshall Plexis and 6 Charvels. You're like, what the fuck? I got to sell weed,
I mean, I just air drummed. I'd put on records and like try to pretend I was playing the drum kit, like visualize what the drum kit was until I could actually afford shit. But luckily, at San Pedro High School and junior high, they had the band room, so I could like borrow shit and take it home, like, you know, a marching bass drum and a snare drum, and then I could borrow like a hi-hat stand from somebody.
Do you play traditional grip?
At first I didn't. I played match.
Wow.
And then I started taking drum lessons here in Los Angeles, and this one drum teacher I had was like, you got to play traditional, and he taught me how to play. But the guy was like 80 years old.
Of course.
And he he was just like, he thought the drum kit was a passing fad. You know, he's like, you know, that drum kit thing is a very fun thing to play, but I think you really need to learn how to do orchestral snare drum if you really want to be employed.
Well, he was old, huh? Hey, man, they got a thing called MTV, brother.
No, but guitar, I wanted to play guitar. I was really into Kiss. They were my first band I ever saw.
Gateway right there, the Gateway.
I was at the gig, the Kiss Alive 2 recording at the Forum.
Whoa, you went to that?
I had my little button that said I was there.
Whoa.
IWUZ there. You know that little button?
Yeah. Whoa.
And so
what was that like? Because I didn't see him till Dynasty 2 years later, 79.
Oh, man. I mean, I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
And
so
it was like
just
watching, like...
It's insane.
It was like seeing superheroes.
I mean, that's the gold stairs. That's the dragons coming up. That's the real deal, you know?
It freaked me out. I couldn't believe it. Like, shit was blowing up. Gene Simmons was blowing fire, spitting blood. But the sound... I remember, like, the sound to my ears seemed really bad. Like, I couldn't understand anything.
Wow.
Because it was just so reverberant.
Yeah.
You know, but and who knows? Maybe it was bad.
You remember who the opener was?
It was Cheap Trick.
Cheap Trick, rad.
That was the first time I ever saw them.
Whoa,
And
that's like me. Cheap
instant
Trick
fan.
Yeah,
Just like,
78. I saw Cheap Trick, AC/DC, Journey, Boyster Cult, Ted Nugent. I listen to all those bands to this day. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, same here. I mean, I was just listening to Cheap Trick last week, just going, holy shit, these guys are like the Beatles of the 70s.
Totally.
You know, like
totally.
It's just, and Bunny Carlos, man, he's like, he's like a modern version of Earl Palmer.
He's so great. He got the shaft, man. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we know it's just band shit. What are you going to do? But, man, it's weird to think about bands back then, how they had these characters, like Kiss were 4 characters. AC/DC had Angus. You're like, like that shit right now wouldn't fly. Like a dude in shorts and stuff. You'd be like, what is that guy doing? You know? Yeah. Or and Bunny and Rick was a Bowery boy. He just looked like that guy from the Bowery Boys with the flipped up hat and weird sweaters and bow tie. And
they're all characters.
They're all characters.
Like there was the nerd guys in the band, then there was the cool ladies band.
Yeah,
you know,
it's wild.
Yeah.
So Kiss was your thing then. So that's
when
really,
I was a kid, like that was the shit. But all my cousins were a little older, and they were into like Ted Nugent and like UFO and you know, like all that shit that was popular.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know,
Boston,
like the early Journey records.
Oh, yeah.
With Neil Schon and Rush 2112 and, you know, like all that shit. Led Zeppelin, of course.
Yeah, it's like the older Stoner Brother music.
Exactly.
You know, like I never forgot. It was like, for me, it was like Kiss and AC/DC and Nugent, you know, and then my buddy's older brother would drive us to school. And he'd be like, oh, that stuff sucks. And he'd throw in Zeppelin or Boston.
Or Sabbath.
Or Sabbath, you know. And he goes, Kiss is garbage. It's bubble gum. I remember that one. It's bubble gum.
And now when you listen to lyrics, they're pretty embarrassing. But when you're 11 years old, it's like... It's like the Mutant Ninja Turtles or something.
Yeah, you need something like that. That, you know, a lot of people ask me if I like wrestling. I hated wrestling, never got into it. I was so into music. But Kiss is the wrestling of music, if you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, and it got us in. And without that, before that, for me, it's Partridge Family. And then AM radio, like Don McLean, Bye Bye Miss American Pie, and stuff like... Donnie and Marie, you know? I mean, you're just listening to pop hits that are candy to your ears.
Yep.
And it's funny to think about people later on in my life, like Jellyfish and stuff, that were doing that kind of pop that I still love now, in mind-boggling musicians doing it.
Yep.
That's what's really cool. I mean, the difference between the Partridge Family and Jellyfish, they both have these pop genius hits, but Jellyfish are the guys that wrote it and played it. So it's really cool to me. Like, wow. Or even like now, like a White Reaper. You know, I love this band. They're like a kind of a Weezer. You know, people that can write finely crafted pop tunes, but can play their instruments and shit is cool.
And they kind of rock at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that stuff.
So, what was your first drum kit? You get a paper route or something and buy it?
I worked at the San Pedro Fish Market.
Oh, yeah?
San Pedro Fish Market, I worked there. You know, cutting up lobsters and putting fish in the freezer and shit like that. And I bought a Tama snare drum because at the time I was obsessed with, you know, Neil Peart and Stuart Copeland, of course, and they both played Tama.
Come on, dude.
So I had to get my Tama Superstar kit together with my 2002 ride cymbal and Rude crash cymbals, of course.
Oh,
like
yes.
Stuart Copeland.
Yeah.
And I had to get a splash cymbal. But that fish market gig, and then my very, very nice mom with her credit card let me go to Guitar Center on Sunset and pick out some cymbals one day.
Rad.
Which was a great day because besides getting the cymbals, it was, I don't know if you ever went to that Guitar Center that was on Sunset.
Oh, yeah, the little one
Was
across the
old one?
street? Yeah.
But when I got there, there was like a Bentley parked out front, and Rick James was in it with Linda Blair.
Whoa, crazy.
It was when
Exorcist.
They were dating, I guess.
Whoa.
And he like walked in and he had like, I mean, he looked like Rick James. He had like red leather pants on and like a t-shirt that was all cut up.
Yeah.
And he was just like in there like checking out basses or something. I don't know what he was doing. He's just hanging out like
That's crazy.
talking.
I mean, I was talking to Grover Jackson on the show. I have another podcast, The Grail, and he was in there, and Jimmy Page was in there.
Cool.
You know what I mean? Like, Jimmy's in there, there's a limo out front, and Jimmy invites him back to the hotel to see some guitars that Grover's selling. So just think back then, like, rock stars actually went down to Guitar Center, you know, to pick up, because Guitar Center was the first kind of, before they became this mega, you know, corporation, they were hip as fuck, man. The one in San Francisco, you go in, you go, wow, these guys got Charvels, man. Like, you couldn't see that shit anywhere unless actual Gibson Les Pauls, you know?
Yeah.
Because most stores had, like, you know, sheet music and some copy guitars, like some Seville's.
Some CB700 drums.
All that. Yeah, it was just a junkyard, you know?
That's true.
But to see the real stuff would be, you would have to go to Guitar Center.
That's true. Yeah, there was no internet. There was...
Yeah. So you recognize Rick James,
I was like, of course. I was like, he looked like Rick James.
Right. Did you talk to him?
Hell no. I was just looking over there like, you know, wow, that's Rick James. I'm buying me some cymbals.
Yeah. How old were you?
Oh, my God. I must have been like 15, maybe.
That's so great, man. Yeah. Rick James. I mean, how great is Rick James?
He's amazing. Did you know that he was in a band with Neil Young?
What?
Like before he became the Rick James we know?
Dude, I never knew that.
And
I'm a huge Neil Young guy.
Check it out. They had a band for a second, and I forgot what it was called.
And what era of Neil was that? Like out of...
I don't know. Google it.
I'm going to look that up. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah, I don't know if they ever put anything out, but I know they played. I think it was in the Bay Area.
Wow. So you get your drum kit together and stuff, and then what, you start just a neighborhood band?
You know, I always had friends that were into, like, you know, I always had guitar player friends that were total shredder dudes, like, you know, like metal nuts, like, hey, let's get together and play some obscure metal shit.
Oh,
you know? And I'm like, okay. I had this one friend who was really into Loudness. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Japanese.
You come to see the show, and you're going to rock and roll. Come on, get on your feet. And, I saw them on that tour on what is the East? I forget, something East with the sun on it. Holy shit, dude. I went at Wolfgang, San Francisco. Akira Takasaki. You know, the Japanese Eddie Van Halen or whatever, you know. And
full-on shredder again.
Dude, those fucking guys crushed it, man.
But so all my buddies were into that shit. Or Van Halen.
Of course.
You know, and that stuff, Van Halen is deceivingly beyond complicated to play on drums. Like, you listen to it and you're like, that's killer. Feels great. It's like super creative. And then you try to play it and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. It's like Phil Rudd.
Alex Van Halen is like one of the most underrated, greatest rock drummers of all time. I
Dude,
mean, just...
I've been saying that for years.
It's insane.
Here's a weird thing about Alex. You never, ever see this guy. Ever. anywhere. Not at a gig, not in not at a paparazzi photo, not in a restaurant, not at a jam. If he's not in a Van Halen gig or video, you will never see this guy.
True.
And he is unreal. His sound, like Push Comes to Shove, do, 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 do.
Yeah.
That
Or Lost
groove.
Control.
Oh, Lost Control. Oh, man, I just saw Lombardo play that, you know? It's great.
But
And
you know, it's really cool to listen to the recordings nowadays, just kind of knowing what I know about recording now
yeah.
from a different perspective. And you realize he really wasn't hitting his drums that hard.
No.
People, I mean, live, of course, but in the studio, he has a pretty light touch.
Yeah, it's all finesse.
Yeah.
And man, you're so right. It's like, try playing that shit. You know?
It's insane.
I know.
And it's just so, like, I was just listening to, what's the song? Have you seen Junior's Grades?
Oh, yeah. Cradle Will Rock.
Cradle Will Rock. Like, the end of that phrase, the drum phrase that he plays right into the chorus is so weird. Like, you listen to it, it's like, and it's like this weird, like, it doesn't make any sense naturally, but if you figure it out, it's genius because it just sets up everything so great. And
I loved his vibe, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go see him live back then. He'd pound those Schlitz malt liquor beers.
I never saw him live.
Oh,
I missed
wow.
him. I never saw him.
So after Kiss, are you not going to a bunch of concerts?
It's just local stuff.
But you weren't hitting the Forum? Because I was hitting the Cowpalace, which was everything right after the Forum.
I went, with my drummer best friend. We were just drum geeks. We went to the Karaoke Christmas thing like in the early 80s, and we saw all these bands, and there was one band, Missing Persons.
Oh, God.
That freaked us out because of Terry Bozzio.
Yeah, he was just insane.
It was when he had the Rototom kit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember that?
And we were just like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh.
And so from that point on, I was just obsessed with Terry Bozzio.
Like, oh, yeah. Remember his instructional videos?
Yeah.
They almost seemed fake, like they were sped up. He'd be like, okay, what I'm going to do here is like a set of paradiddles. And I'll say, be like, and his hands would move crazy fast. And you're going like, this ain't real. My drummer watched him all day, every day. You know?
He'd do that thing where he'd play like one figure with his hands, and then he'd play the same thing with his feet.
Yeah.
He'd be like, and then his feet would be like, perfectly.
That guy was unbelievable.
Insane. So I went down a Terry Bozzio rabbit hole, like all the Frank Zappa stuff he did.
Yeah.
And, he was in UK for a second.
Right. I
After
saw him at the US Festival.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my God. Yeah. There's a great video of him playing a song called US Drag from the US Festival with Missing Persons where he does a solo.
He's incredible.
It's insane.
I guess he lives up in Ventura now. He's just kind of a hermit or something. I talked to his son a few times, tried to get him on the show. His son's a drummer.
Yeah. He was doing that solo drum thing where he had that insane drum kit.
Yep.
And I don't know what happened. I mean, maybe he's taking a break. I mean, that guy has been so prolific and so groundbreaking forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Guys,
And look at the guy Zappa had,
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, you had like all the way back from like Ainsley Dunbar, Vinnie Colaiuta, Chad Wackerman.
Yeah, I had Vinny on, and I mean, Vinny is unreal.
He's.
There's these dudes out there that, and I wanted to get into this because I wanted to find out how you got into it. But Vinny's played on like 2,000 or 3,000 recordings.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, there were these guys, Michael Urbano in the Bay Area.
I know Michael.
Yeah. You got Josh Freeze. You got Vinny, Matt, you, of course. There were these dudes that were the dudes. And they got
making records, like
yep,
recording?
They got all the gigs. Now, from what I can tell, it looked like you were pretty much an Andy Slater guy because you did all the Slater stuff. Macy Gray, Fiona Apple, Wallflowers. How does your career start as a hired gun studio musician? Because did you give up on playing in an original band after Edie Brickell, or did you just I want to make money playing drums?
Well, after the SNL thing, I was like, I don't really want to do this. I did it for a year. And so I was like, where can I move where there's it's affordable and there's lots of musicians, and I could just do music with people and not have to worry about making a living there. And so I was like, well, Seattle was pretty great. Maybe I'll move to Seattle. So I moved to Seattle.
where you weren't going to move before?
Yeah. Well, because I had been there for that time.
Right.
And I was thinking, it's not so bad. And so I started a band there that was totally improvisational with this sax player named Skerrick, who ran his sax through a guitar rig, and the bass player from the New Bohemians. It was called Critters Buggin'.
Wow.
And
were you inspired by jam, like the jam scene or the Dead, or was it just more improv, more jazzy?
It was more like it was more industrial in a way.
Wow.
It was more like trying to do live noise, electronic-y stuff with real instruments.
Like kind of Ministry, like Just One Fix era and stuff?
Almost like that, but with more jazz, I guess.
Wow, that's cool.
But we got a record deal on Epic Records and put out a couple records and toured. Obviously that kind of music isn't for everybody, but
right. That's fucking cool that the Epic would sign something with that. Was it because it was so hot up there with the grunge and everything? So they're just like, grab it. This is weird. Oh, Stone.
Stone had a record label called Loose Groove Records.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Like Queens of the Stone Age were on it.
Yeah,
I think Brad, and so he knew I was making recordings in my little place, and I gave them to him, and he's like, you should just do a record with those guys. And it was all this music, and so he got us a record deal. As a matter of fact, we're in a band now.
Stone
and I, we have a band called Painted Shield. Stone
is talk about it. He's the Alex Van Halen of Seattle. He's so underrated, but the guy is, he's just killer, man.
Yeah, he's so musical. And on top of the music stuff, he really has been a huge supporter of the local music community in Seattle.
Oh, that's so cool.
And has instigated a lot of opportunities for people, like that a lot of, like, for instance, my band, like we would never get a record deal.
Yeah.
So anyways, we did that band, and then I got a call out of the blue from Greg Richling, the bass player from Wallflowers, and he's like, hey, we need a drummer. Would you come down here and play with us? And so I came down, and we just did all these little demos and kind of worked on all those songs. And Andy Slater was the manager.
Right.
And we auditioned producers. Like we went through some different producers.
Whoa.
And we ended up jamming or playing for T-Bone Burnett.
Yeah.
At Cole's rehearsal. Remember Cole's?
Yeah.
And T-Bone, we ended up using him for the record. But T-Bone called me the next day to do a session.
What?
He's like, hey, you're in town. I'd like for you to play on this record. And I was like, cool, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And he just started calling me to do records. Like we did a record with his wife, Sam Phillips.
Oh, yeah.
And
look at his run right there. He does Brother, Where Art Thou? But then in the same year, he does Wallflowers, Bringing Down the Horse, and Counting Crows, August, and everything after. And they're the two biggest records of the 90s. And not only that, but really mastered this incredible, because he's coming out of Brother, Where Art Thou? But then Wallflowers have got this kind of the band sound. Mm-hmm. And he really, and same with, Van Morrison with the Counting Crows. Yeah. But he really knew how to record these organic B3 centered bands with the big organ and the big fucking killer, hooks that would just come on, and the organic sound of like an old 70s record, but not sounding like, trying
modern.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, man, the guy's obviously super talented. I'm a fan of everything he does.
I love him.
But so he started hiring me, and then Andy, I remember Andy sent me a tape, cassette, back in the day when people sent you cassettes.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, my house cleaner gave me this cassette of this girl, Fiona Apple.
Wow.
She just did this. She's doing this stuff in her bedroom.
Wow.
He was like, hey, would you come down and like play on some of this stuff? I'm trying to get her signed. And so I know they did some stuff before I played on it. They did some demos. But I came down and played on some of it, and it became part of her first record. And then
she's a killer.
Andy got the gig managing her, and she's amazing. She's
the new record? Holy shit. Fetch the Bolt Cutters?
Yeah.
Oh, that one, what is that, Kicking Me Under the Table or something? That fucking song is unreal, man. She is so good,
She's
dude.
a trip. I think she played a lot of the drums on her record. I remember she was like texting me pictures of drums she bought because she knows I'm a vintage drum freak.
Yeah.
And she's like, check out this weird little drum kit. And it was like all set up in her living room with, she had like mics and like she recorded it all on her laptop, I think.
Oh, no shit.
A lot of it, just in her own little space. It was like,
She's incredible.
She's great.
But you played, and then Macy Gray.
Then Macy Gray. And then Andy obviously was in a position where he was managing like 3 amazing artists, and he got a gig as the president of Capitol Records.
Right.
And so every time he needed a drummer, he'd call me up, which was awesome because I loved coming down here. And I was still living in Seattle. So that went on for years. And then I just started branching out. And my band that I had, that Critters Buggin', we did a record with this producer who was Tori Amos's producer on her first 2 records. And she needed a drummer. And this was in 97. And so I went out and did a record with her. And we've been working together since then.
Wow.
Like we just did a record last year, like a Christmas record, like a remote Christmas record. And that's I've done like 10 records with her.
That's incredible, man. What out of the LA studios, you've worked at all the good ones, Sunset Sound, Sound City, and all that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
My favorite drum room is it's called United now. What was it before? They keep changing the names of these places. Because there's East West, used to be Cello.
Right.
And that has some great drum rooms.
Yeah.
I like that room in the back there. I think it's 3, not 3. Is it 3? I always forget the names of the rooms. But
yeah.
But the studio that's across, it's like down the street from East West. It's called United now.
Right.
It was the place that Bill Putnam built.
Wow.
Bill Putnam was the guy who invented the LA2A compressor and the 1176 and Universal Audio, basically.
Right.
And he designed those rooms. And there's a room, the studio in the back. I think they call it Studio A. And it has this thing called a drum umbrella. Have you seen that?
No.
Studio? It's like on a cable, and you can like press a button. It goes, it comes down. It basically
kind of dampens.
It kind of dampens the drum kit.
Wow.
But that room sounds so good. I mean, you can play, anything in there. You can smack on a table in there, and it sounds good. I don't know what's going on.
Wow.
That's probably my favorite drum room for like a live, great acoustic sound.
And do you record mostly with vintage drums?
A lot of times I do.
What are you using, like old Ludwigs and stuff?
Yeah, like 60s Ludwigs are kind of like the P bass of drums.
Yeah,
they always sound incredible for some reason. Lately, I've been getting into I have these old Gretsch drums from the 40s.
Wow.
These old 3-ply Gretsch drums that sound beautiful. It's all about character. For me, I just want the drums to have some cool character in the recording. It seems like the older drums, there's always something weird about them. Like they're not perfect.
Well, they're warped and kind of weird. So they got a soul.
Yeah, you get like something like the mic picks it up. I mean, because there's a lot of great new drums. There's a million great new drums. And they all sound great, but sometimes you're kind of missing the wrongness. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just perfect.
Yeah, they're all digital cut and like perfect computer. This shell is perfect.
Yeah. And that stuff is good for certain types of music. You know? Like
it's good for when you're on the road too and it doesn't fall apart.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are some new drum companies, like smaller boutique drum companies.
Remember Ayot?
I played Ayot.
Fucking great, man. Matt Cameron played him.
Yep.
I met the guy a couple years ago at the NAMM show. He's just standing there by himself, I was like, whoa, Ayot, the old man.
Ray Ayot.
Yeah, he's great.
You know what happened is his company got taken away from him.
Oh, I didn't know this.
That's why a lot of people left, is because it was one of those unfortunate things where I think he had a bunch of investors and they kind of just took the company.
Oh.
And then the quality just went to hell.
Oh, I was wondering what happened, man.
Because he was making all the stuff himself.
Wood rings.
The wood hoops.
Great, man. I want to have him on the show.
You should get him on.
I got to find him, man, because, it was funny because Matt started playing him. Because everybody, in the late 80s was so into DW. Here comes Tommy Lee.
And DW was great in the late 80s.
Killing it.
Because they were using those shells, those Keller shells.
Those shells were killer, dude.
They were like, they were coming out of the Camco era.
Yeah.
Because Camco shells kind of transitioned into DW. I think they bought the hardware rights. If you look at old Camco drums, they look just like DW.
Right.
But those shells were thicker and just, they had some balls to them. Now they're making their own shells, and in my opinion, it's just not the same. You know,
Right,
it's like,
right. Well,
something-
also the thing about DW was they really kicked it up, man, on the finishes.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what is that abalone shell? Like old Ludwig kits, but they were doing it now.
Yeah.
And beautifully. You get oyster and abalone looking shells or these crazy metal flakes and shit. So it was matching with all the
and
rock.
all kinds of crazy wood. They found all this
remember that
insane
shit?
looking, you know, curled maple or whatever. You know, yeah, they make beautiful stuff. It's just not the same as their early stuff.
Right. So
To
they
me.
were killing it, and then all of a sudden, Matt Cameron's playing Ayot, and you know he's like, these got wood rings, you know, and they resonate, they sound great, and I was so into them, you know.
Yeah, he was playing. I think he played the Ayots on the last Soundgarden record, the Down on the Upside.
Right.
That was Ayot. I think the record before was still DW.
Well, now he has a kid. I don't know if he plays
Now
Yamaha.
he's Yamaha, yeah.
And it looks like an Ayot, wood rings and shit. You see that?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like a copy.
Uh-huh.
Man, what about that groove he plays on Wooden Jesus?
That's pretty great.
Oh my God, it's so great. Now you played with Soundgarden for a while.
Yeah, I filled in for him.
Yeah, where was he? With Pearl Jam at the time?
It just happened to be the same year that Pearl Jam put out a record and Soundgarden got off. I think they put a record out too around the same time.
Right.
You know that, what was it called? Animal?
The Nine Inch Nails tour you did, right?
Yeah. I was just trying to remember the name of their record they put out. Their last record. Their King Animal.
Oh, King
Right.
Animal.
Yeah. That was the record they put out, I think. But anyways, he was kind of in a situation, you know, he can't be in two places at once.
Right.
And plus, they wanted a drummer they could call Matt still.
Yeah.
MC, same initials.
Yeah. Then when they're all loaded, they're like, Matt, come on,
Hey,
Matt. Yeah. Yeah.
MC.
So you played on that Cornell solo record. I went and saw that. Did you do any of those shows? Because I saw him in Ventura on that weird record.
No, I think he toured just with a cello player on that. It was just him.
Yeah, and it was I couldn't even barely remember the show, but it was like had this weird lighting on stage, and yeah, I think it was just him.
Acoustic guitar.
Yeah,
right?
it was really. I actually saw it 2 times, Fillmore and Ventura Theater. But yeah, it was a weird run for him, you know.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're used to
Right.
his more rocking
Right.
stuff.
I was down with it. I'm down with anything he does, you know.
He was so talented for that. I mean, his acoustic guitar playing was so good.
Wow.
You know, and I mean, obviously his voice. He could sing over anything, and it would sound incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Soundgarden thing was a crash course in learning that insane music.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was so much fun. That was like one of my favorite bands ever. You know, just to like play with them for, you know, I think we did like 51 shows or something like that. We opened up for Sabbath in Europe, and then we did that tour in the U.S. with.
Did you play Gun on that tour?
We did.
Because it's the tempo changes on that are so cool,
It
right?
constantly goes faster and faster, and then the bridge goes super fast, and then it starts back up again and just gets faster and faster. That's a badass tune.
Is that all feel, or do they have something where they're like, okay, we go from this count to this count? It's just feel, right?
You just got to feel it.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. I was actually just talking to a friend the other day about the beauty of a rock band and how simple it is. You know, it's so simple. It's just a guitar player, a bass player, a singer, and a drummer. There's no tracks. There's no click tracks. There's nothing. You're just up there playing. It's so beautiful.
No.
You know, it's so simple. Like, and the power of it is that they're just badass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing to it really.
It's total organic.
Yeah, you just got to be good. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, you hope so. You know what I mean? I mean, a good rock band. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and they're like an anomaly. I just don't understand how one band can write so much amazing music.
No, man.
And to have that singer, to have him be your singer, to find him in this small little town, and like you have this band and you guys are writing all this shit. It's like, what a crazy. I guess that's what all the great bands are. They're just combinations of things that just perfectly line up somehow. It's like
I mean, Hands All Over is one of the greatest songs ever, you know? But then you get into Reach Down and on Temple of the Dog, you know, and I mean, his depth of songwriting is what was really the best about him, because early on they're like a Sabbath, slow, way tuned down, dirgy.
Yep.
And, obviously listening to a lot of Melvins and Sabbath and stuff and getting into that. And then later be able to write like something like Black Hole Sun or Reach Down or, even other stuff that he did later on when he did those covers and shit. It's just unreal. Yeah. The Prince cover.
I think they started to get into alternate tunings, like alternative tunings, where they would tune the guitar in these weird ways, and it would just create all these new ideas for him. I remember after that tour was over, I had all the, or not all of them, but a lot of set lists were still in my drum cases.
Oh, cool.
And somehow I got the guitar tuning sheet.
Oh, it's wild, right? You see B, you're like, B? The strings are barely hanging on.
Yeah, and it showed like all the different tunings for all the different songs, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I'm going to mess around with this because I play a little guitar.
Yeah.
And there was one that was like all the same note, except there was one that was like a fourth above. And so all the strings are the same note. But when you play it, it's impossible for them all to be in tune because they're all going to start moving around.
Right.
And it just creates this sound. And you're like, oh, that's that sound of like, what's that song? I can't think of anything now. Rusty Cage.
Oh, Rusty Cage.
Like,
yeah.
There's just certain things where you're like, it almost kind of sounds Middle Eastern.
Oh, yeah, that gong, 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 gong. That shit is so dirty. Yeah, and they do have those Middle Eastern.
Yeah, it's almost like a hammered dulcimer, like that thing where it's like tuned to the same note and you just kind of have a drone note and then you can kind of move around the fretboard.
Genius, man.
It's just so cool. And then with all the time change stuff they have, like nothing's in 4/4.
Yeah.
But he's singing like a blues singer over the top of it and making it sound totally effortless and natural. That's the crazy thing about it.
Genius.
So, yeah, that was a dream come true and super fun and stressful all at the same time. It's like, oh, yeah, go ahead and fill in for Matt Chamberlain, like one of the most iconic drummers of the past, 30, 40 years. It's like sitting in with the Police or, with anybody that has like a drummer that's, well known. It was not easy, but it was fun.
Stuart Copeland is just, he's unreal. Ghost in the Machine. I saw that tour, and I was like, I've always been into drummers. I've played with some great drummers. I think one of the greatest drummers I ever played with is a guy named Ronnie Crawford, who played with Lisa Loeb. Mm-hmm. And he came down and auditioned for my band. I'm like, Lisa Loeb, I don't know if that's going to work. And this guy was just fucking insane. And Steve Gorman from the Black Crowes,
he's great.
Doing that Page Plant, the Page Crows stuff. Just killing the Bonzo stuff.
I saw that tour. That was incredible.
Oh, right?
Man.
How great is he? Did you go through your Bonzo thing, or was he not your man?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, of course.
He's kind of like the foundation, really.
Of course.
How could you not be into him and be into rock music?
He's the greatest of all time.
He took it all and just kind of made it into this new thing, but it's funky, and obviously his sound is like one of the mysteries of the universe. Like, you can try to sound like him, but you just can't. It's just, I don't know.
And his look ruled, and his vibe. The way he'd count off shit. And I liked him when he had the big old beard and shit later on in life. He's just like, you can hear him breathing and shit. Like,
it's crazy to think he was only like 30 years old.
It's nuts, right? Like Nebworth, you look at him, you go, man, he looks 90, but he's just up there just killing it, man. Yeah. He lived it. He lived it.
He lived pretty hard.
What are you playing now, drum-wise?
What, like endorsing?
Yeah.
I'm playing Yamaha.
Oh, wow, cool.
Those guys, I wanted to go with a company that was going to be everywhere. So if I traveled somewhere, I could find drums.
Yeah.
And they are everywhere. And they just sound really good. Like if I have to just use a new drum kit, they're pretty great.
That's cool.
They have a lot of different shells that you can choose from that have different tonal qualities, and they're just great sounding drums. No bullshit.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's other great drum companies, but
of course
they're kind of like, for me, they're the default. Like all my favorite drummers, pretty much are playing them or have played them. Like Steve Jordan and everyone from like Elvin Jones to Larry Mullen Jr. to Roy Haynes to, I mean, it's just, it's the whole, you know, if I needed to like do a jazz gig, they got me covered. If I needed to do like a metal gig, they got me covered.
Yeah. You play much metal?
Well, I was going to say this project that I have with Stone called Painted Shield is pretty riff rocky.
Whoa.
But with some synthy stuff in there.
And what's the lineup? It's got a singer and everything?
Yeah, we have the singer named Mason Jennings, who has been a solo artist for a while. And so him and Stone hooked up and started writing like 6 years ago. Just like when the pandemic hit, Stone just sent me some music and he's like, hey, would you be into putting some drums on this? And so I sent him some stuff that I was writing, and Mason sang over it, and Stone put guitar on it, and now we have a band. So we put a record out like about 4 months ago, and we're about to put the next one out. We're about to mix it.
I got to listen to that. So it's out now?
Yeah, Painted Shield, man.
Wow, I got to hear that, man.
And so it's Mason, Stone, me, and this keyboard player from Seattle named Brittany.
Who's on bass?
She's playing kind of like keyboard bass.
Oh, Doors style.
She plays like, she comes from the church, so she's like a killer like B3 player.
Wow.
And she just can play anything. I don't know. But if we play live, we will have a bass player.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's just one of these email shit to everybody and overdub and pandemic band, you know?
Yeah, pandemic band. Yeah.
But it's super fun to get Stone to like, just like, hey, here's a fast groove. I'll just send him like a super fast drum groove, and I'll be like, okay, here's a template. Write some killer Stone riffs over it. Come on.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, okay, here. And he'll send it back, and then I'll chop it up in Pro Tools, and then we'll send it to Mason, and he'll sing over it. And
wow.
I'm always trying to get Stone just to like do those. I love his riffs.
Oh, that stuff like boom, 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 you know, like the even flow riffs and all the stuff on Verses, man, you know. Those riffs on Verses just kill. I think Verses is one of the greatest records ever made.
Verses. I love, what's the record? It's the first, I think it's like one of the first ones Jack Irons played drums.
Oh, yeah. Jack Irons' Arrows was a trip, man, because then he played with Wallflowers after, too.
It's an incestuous little musical community.
Are you talking about like Spin the Black Circle era and stuff like that?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love Jack's feel. It's super wide and just, you know, it's kind of sloppy in the best way.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's very dynamic. He plays really vibey, cool shit too on those records. So.
You're playing with Dylan now, huh?
I am.
He just turned 80.
I know. That's crazy. Yeah, I did a whole tour with him right before the pandemic hit, and we did a record.
Yeah, Murder Most Foul. Did you play on that?
Yeah.
What a masterpiece song.
Nuts.
Come on, dude. That song?
It's crazy.
It's insane. Do you do the formation at the end of the show? Line up?
We all stand up and bow. Yeah.
Yeah.
We stand up and bow. He is so iconic, and I never really knew much about him. I just didn't grow up listening to him.
Right.
And so, obviously, playing with him, I have to listen to a lot of the music, and it's just mind-boggling.
Oh, my God. Come on. Ballad of Thin Man? Does he ever do that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Do that. But he likes to change it up. He grew up during the era of beatniks and jazz musicians, so it's different all the time.
Oh, well, he never sings the songs. I mean,
it's just, some people get pissed off and leave the show because they're like, I don't even know what song he's singing.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's funny. And then Adam Duritz got onto that, and I'm like, hey, dude, sing August and Everything After like it is on the radio, you know, like. But yeah, it is interesting because you're standing there and you're going like, oh shit, man. You know, this is you know, like you start to figure it out.
This is Highway 66 done as like a free jazz song.
Yeah. How does that work? Do you go in and rehearse the foundations and then he just calls out stuff and you just play it however he feels?
You know, my introduction to playing with him was just show up and play music. He didn't want me to learn any music. He didn't want me to learn. It was just show up, and he wants to see how I play. Yeah. And how I listen and what I do. So I just showed up, and the whole band was there, and he was on piano, and he just would start into these riffs, and he just wanted to hear what I would do.
Yeah.
Just my natural inclinations, and Little did I know that we were playing his songs.
Oh,
I didn't know. I thought he was just jamming on stuff.
Right.
And he liked that I didn't know what the hell they were doing, and I was just coming up with stuff. I didn't know what we were doing.
Right. That's great. So no preconceived notion of like, okay, we're playing Ballad of Thin Man. This is how it goes. If you don't know how it goes, then you're just going to play organically instead of trying to find like the record version, playing it like that.
That's the last thing he wants to do.
Right.
He said that the reason those songs sound like that on those records is because that was the day they recorded them.
Yeah.
Maybe if they recorded them another day, and it would sound different. And actually, if you listen to like all those, there's a million outtakes.
They're all different.
And they're all different.
Totally.
So it makes sense. But we'll come up with arrangements for the tour, and they'll kind of stay the same.
Yeah.
He might add like a little turnaround or something.
And is he keyboards now still?
Piano? Harmonica, and he was playing a little guitar on the last one.
I'm dying to see him. I want him just to throw on that like Strat again and just.
Yeah, he was playing Strat.
Wow.
On that song, on Ballad of the Thin Man.
Oh man.
He played Strat. But the guitar players we have are Charlie Sexton and Bob Britt, who are just like probably like the most baddest ass blues guitar players I've ever played with in my life. They're just insane.
Yeah.
And they're like an encyclopedia of anything I ever wanted to know about blues music, because it's another genre I just didn't grow up with. I grew up with it via Led Zeppelin, and
of course,
because they were ripping off the blues.
Yeah.
I just never knew like the real shit.
AC/DC's blues. I
just didn't know the real shit. And so I'm always asking them, like, who should I check out? Like, who are some drummers? Like, who are some blues drummers I should really dive into? And the drummers back then weren't really super expressive. They're they just kind of laid it down. It was more about just being simple and the guy telling his story about how woman done him wrong or something.
Yeah.
And there's a Little Walter record where I think it's Albert King is playing drums.
Wow.
A blues guitar player. He was a drummer for a little while.
I never knew that at all.
And played on some Jimmy Reed stuff too. Just boom, ka, boom, boom. Ka.
Yeah.
Just really.
Well, that's kind of it's like that kind of porch, with your foot like stomping on the porch, in the earth, screaming. It's just kind of like getting it out there.
But there's so many types of blues. So depending on what you're talking about, there's like the more slick Chicago style blues.
Yeah.
And then there's
White Stripes play blues.
Yeah. And then there's like the more acoustic stuff. There's Howlin' Wolf. I mean, there's just so much great stuff to listen to. And it's all, and you listen to it and you go, oh my God, I understand now that the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin and all these people just ripped them off.
Oh yeah.
Willie Dixon, man, that dude got ripped off.
Well, they're just
so
playing
hard.
the songs and changing them, like Dazed and Confused and stuff, like, hey, wait a minute,
Although they did great versions. I mean,
yeah.
Led Zeppelin killed everything they did.
Well, I mean, at the same time they did that, they also did Achilles' Last Stand,
Yeah.
So you're just going like, yeah, okay, it wasn't like they were, just pilfering the whole time. They were, I mean, that was that, Eric Clapton and the Blues Breakers and John Mayall and all that. They were just playing blues rock with electric guitars and stuff.
Yep.
And then eventually becoming themselves, obviously.
Yeah, but that was the music that inspired them to want to start playing music.
Right.
So they just wanted to copy their heroes.
I mean, that's how Keith and Mick met,
Yeah.
Now, when you record with Dylan, is it just one takes or what's that like?
Well, on this record, he wanted to do it where nobody wore headphones.
Oh, yeah.
And wanted to do it like we were at Sun Records or something.
Right. Oh, wow.
Because people used to make records like that, right? I
mean,
just set up in a room and just play. You don't have to have headphones And so we tried it, and it was really challenging because he wanted to set up right in front of the drum kit.
Oh, getting bleed.
With his vocal mic, with a really nice like U47. And I was just thinking, I'm not going to be able to really hit my drums because I will destroy his vocal sound. And plus, he doesn't sing very loud.
Right.
So I'm just thinking, okay, well, I got to figure out how to get some sounds that are going to be full bodied, but I have to make them very soft. So I had a lot of like calfskin headed drums, like old 40s Radio King drums.
Oh, wow.
And, played with really thin sticks and like brushes and stuff like that. So it was challenging from that point of view, but I think it came out all right. I mean, it sounds like people in a room playing together, which doesn't happen too often.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny to think about, that people just don't do that, or at least for modern rock records.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience because the guy is one of the greatest poets, really.
It's unreal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is he just cutting that vocal live like Murder Most Foul? Like just rolling all that stuff 79 at the time, just not forgetting anything? Is there notes or is he?
Oh, he definitely has the lyrics printed out.
Right.
'Cause, I mean, things are always changing.
Right.
Like, things are always in flux.
Right.
You know, we're like changing. Like we did multiple versions of that song.
Wow.
With different feels, and then we ended up on that, which was more just free time. He invited Fiona Apple over to play piano on it.
That's right.
And so I didn't get to play drums on the version they put down.
Uh-huh.
But so they recorded it, and I was like, hey, I want to put some drums on this. Can I just go out there and just try? Like,
Yeah.
I'll just do like sound effects or something.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of enhance the lyrics and stuff. And Bob was like, all right, man, I don't think it's going to work. And so I went out there, and he was about to just like walk out of the control room.
Yeah.
And I started, and he just sat down, and the whole take, I was thinking, they're never going to use this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's real minimal. I just did like, little rumbles, and, I couldn't play time because there was no time. It was all free time.
Right.
And so I did the whole take, and Bob was like, this is perfect. That's perfect.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
And I was like, really? Okay.
Wow.
Thanks.
That's so
And so
cool.
that's what they ended up using on the record. And yeah.
I mean, it's a classic. Since Time Out of Mind, it's the next classic Dylan. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff, and it's great and everything. But when Time Out of Mind came out,
I love those Lanois Dylan records.
Come on,
those
man.
are great.
I mean, that shit is just crazy, dude. And then you get this song, and you're like, out of nowhere, he just drops it out of nowhere, and you're like, wait, new Dylan? Oh, this is cool as shit.
It's like 17 minutes long.
And it's cool, man.
And apparently that's the first #1 single he has had that he sang on. Because he's had #1 singles
Right. Covers.
that other people
Right.
did of his songs, but he's never had a #1 as himself.
That's
which is crazy.
That's insane. I never even knew that.
Yeah.
You played with The Who, record with The Who? Did you do that?
Yeah.
What happened to Zach Starkey at that time?
The producer was here
Yeah.
finishing up. I guess they tracked a bunch of stuff in London, and they came back and realized they didn't have certain songs, like they didn't get the versions they wanted.
Right.
So the producer was Dave. What the hell is his name? See, man, I'm getting Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I'm there, dude. I'm 55.
Coffee.
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
more coffee.
Sometimes shit comes firing out, and other times it's pure blur.
What's his name? He lives down the street from me. He's my friend.
Dude, I hate that. Oh, I hate that, dude. I know people for years. They come up. I'm like, oh no, what's this guy's name? Oh my god.
I did a couple records with him. We just worked together a couple months ago.
Wow.
But anyways, he was he's like trying to finish the record, like mixing it, and he's realizing, we need to get, this has to happen now because I'm mixing.
Yeah.
And Zach was probably like in Jamaica or something.
Right, yeah.
And so he actually called a couple different people. He had like Carla Azar, that drummer. She played on a couple tunes, and Joey Warnicker played on a song. And there were a couple he wanted me to play on.
Wow.
And
dude, you played on a Who record.
It was nuts. Yeah. I mean my initial Dave Sardy. That's the producer.
Oh, Dave Sardy. Yeah.
Sorry, Dave Sardy, if you're listening to this. Yeah, I mean, it was like, they weren't there. It was already recorded. We're just replacing
of course.
the drums.
Yeah.
So, but to hear those, guitars and that voice.
No, man.
I was like, wait a minute. I can't go into my Keith Moon impression. I just can't.
Yeah.
And plus, I can't play like Keith Moon. Nobody can.
Nobody can.
But I did what I thought worked.
Yeah.
And they kept it, I think, on one of the songs.
Well, it was great talking to you, man. It's you've had a great career, man. You know, you played so many great records. You're an amazing drummer, and I was excited to have you on for sure because I've had all the drummers that I love on here. I'm still, you know, I mean, of course, I'd love to have Stuart Copeland, you know, because he's just a lunatic also. He's just cool, you know. But I just respect drummers so much. You know, to me, I'm a comedian, so my audience is my drummer. The laughs are my drummer. And I learn about great feel and great, you know, rhythm and stuff from playing with some killer drummers over my time and seeing great drummers. And it's funny because you can have a record and let's say like Bringing Down the Horse, the Wallflowers, and they've had multiple drummers over the years, and those songs are always going to sound different. And they're all great, great drummers, but there's something about some people that have this feel, and you got that feel, you know. It's just like this is great drumming on here, you know. Just a great feel.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. What do you got coming? Is Dylan? You're still in Dylan? Are you guys gonna tour?
Yeah, if it's safe.
Right.
I mean, you know, he's 80, so
He's 80.
Yeah, you can't mess around with that.
No.
You got to be really safe.
No.
We'll see.
You guys bus it?
He's a hobo, man. He has his bus.
Wow, I love it.
I
love it.
He's living it, man. He's for real.
Remember on the documentary, he's driving the bus.
Yeah.
On the Thunder tour, you know, he's driving the bus.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, he's like one of those guys, like Willie Nelson, man. It's like your
him.
bus is your house.
I love
You're
it.
always in your bus. It's like hotels or like whatever, you know. It's like, as long as you can go in there and take a shower, it doesn't really matter if it's like a nice hotel or not.
Yeah.
It could be like on the side of the freeway at a truck stop, like outside of town.
He'll roll that?
Oh my God, yeah.
Really?
As long as he can open the window.
Yeah.
That's his thing. He needs to be able to open the window up of the hotel room.
Yeah.
A lot of hotel rooms you can't open the window. So
wow.
He's for real, man.
Dude, that's amazing.
Like we'll be like at some, you know, Embassy Suites or, you know, not a Motel 6, but like
right. Like a Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah, something like that. Like,
yeah.
He's just like, fuck it. This is great. We can pull the buses up. Oh. There's like a little, little Texaco over there.
Yeah. God, he's such the fucking real deal. You know?
I remember one day off we had, I'm not even sure where it was. It was like in the Midwest somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm outside walking to the bus, and I look down the street, and on the corner, I see Bob. He always wears his hoodie.
Yeah.
And he's like on the corner, like shadow boxing, like waiting for the light to turn green.
Really?
And I'm just like, yeah. And of course, nobody has any idea who this guy is.
No, he's got the hoodie and shades
some
on.
Dude, like in the middle of like off some, you know, exit.
Just shadow boxing on the street corner.
He's a big boxer, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
that guy, his career is unreal.
It's
his
insane.
career, his story. There'll never be another guy like him. Him and Willie, they're unreal.
Yeah, they're like American icons. Like they kind of embodied like the American dream for a lot of people. It seemed like,
dude,
you know, like here's a guy that's really like a troubadour. He's really living it. He's not a show business guy. He's like doing it.
I mean, look at Before Time Out of Mind. His career, they're saying, is over. He's playing county fairs, and he's like, yeah, well, you're just doing county fairs. Like, cool, get the bus going. Let's go. You know, it's like
he's punk rock, man. He's full on punk rock.
I love him, man.
He does not give a shit.
I love his outfits.
Yeah.
Oh my God! What do you have to wear like an outfit in the band?
We have these we have different suits that kind of complement his suits.
Yeah.
It's a very Vegas.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Little sparkly gold.
Remember, he had that. I don't know if you ever followed Dylan, but like 10, 15 years ago, he had this woman violin player, and she was just dead center the whole show. Like out of nowhere, like, who's that? He saw her in Austin. She's in the band now. It's like, what?
Why not?
Yeah, why not? I love it. Charlie's a fucking monster, man.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember him from back in the day.
Yeah, remember his band with Doyle?
Oh yeah,
Shit.
the Blue Angels or something.
The Archangels.
Archangels.
Yeah, the Blue Angels.
The Blue Angels. Yeah, that was the Stevie Ray Vaughan band with.
They were great, dude. They were great,
I
man.
love that. I had that one record. I don't know if they did any.
Chris
other ones.
Layton, man. Good
Yeah.
friend of mine. Good friend of mine. I
Talk
love
about
Chris
a
Layton.
feel.
Dude.
Holy shit.
Dude, and he's, you know what? There ain't a better human than Chris Layton.
Oh, I've
I'll
never
tell
met
you.
him.
Oh my God, I had him on the show, and he comes see comedy when I'm doing comedy, and he's just, this guy's fucking solid, dude. Solid.
Cool. Those Stevie Ray Vaughan records are
Come on, dude.
sick. Those grooves are ridiculous.
How many drum kits you got?
Not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough.
I love it.
There's
Where you
always one
living?
more that you need, right?
You living in LA?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. And
Thanks, man.
if Dylan goes out, I'm going to go see you play with Dylan. I can't wait.
Check it out. It'll be fun.
It'll be great.
You just never know what's going to happen.
You don't.
never know.
Yeah, different set list every night?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll play one song and he'll be playing another song over it.
Oh,
You
I
never
love
know.
it. Ron Wood style and the Stones. They're over there playing Jumpin' Jack Flash. He's playing, Satisfaction.
But it all works out.
It does.
It's all music. Nobody gets hurt.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Like, I guess he played like Hyde Park like a year and a half ago or whatever. And they're like, the crowd was angry. He didn't play any of the songs right. They left. And he's like, yeah. Good. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, he's like, fuck you guys.
I love it. I love it, man. All right, man. You got an Instagram or anything?
I do. I have a hard time with social media. I keep deleting it, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm holding on. I'm gonna keep it. I think I'm gonna.
Okay, what is it?
Let me look because I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Yeah, that's so great.
What is the handle?
Yeah. I mean, you want
It's
people...
drum. It's drum Matt Chamb.
Oh, my God.
Drum Matt Chamb. CHAMB.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. And check out Painted Shield. And I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of John Mayer. Friend of mine, man. You played with John Mayer. That's cool.
Yeah, the second record.
God, I love him. I
was fun.
didn't like him at all, ever. And then saw him in Dead & Co. And now I love him, man. Born and Raised is my Sunday record. I play it every Sunday.
Cool.
Did you do any live gigs with him or no?
We just did the record.
Yeah. Elton John. Holy shit. I'll tell you what, people. If you've listened to music, you've heard this man play drums. I'm just going to say, oh, shit. Springsteen. Dude.
Yeah.
You played with Springsteen. Wrecking Ball.
Yeah, and the last one.
Wow.
The,
The last one? With the latest live one? Like in the studio?
well, he did the record, and then he did a live version of it.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I played on 2 or 3 tracks on that one.
How's Bruce?
Well, on the first record, on Wrecking Ball, I went out to his place.
Oh, God. In Jersey?
And the producer, who was a friend of mine, the producer, and it was Ron and Yellow, the producer, and Bruce were playing everything. Like, they were writing the songs and just playing every instrument.
Whoa.
And at one point, they were like, you know what? I think we need to get somebody to come in here and play drums,
Yeah.
and not have to chop it up in Pro Tools. And so I did, it was probably like 3 or 4 songs.
Wow. Bruce there?
He was there. He was hanging. Yeah.
Wow. How cool
Right.
is that fucking guy?
Super nice guy. He's Bruce Springsteen. I mean,
I know. Come on, dude. I fucking love him.
and then, I think they got like some of the E Street Band to play on some of that record,
Yeah.
on that Wrecking Ball.
Max is killer.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, the way with Max, to me, it's all about dynamics. He's a master of dynamics, because it's this low verses and then these big choruses and just the way he can, because if you look at him, he's just boom, pow, boom, pow, boom, pow, but then it'll just disappear and then it'll come back and it makes the song sound like it's going for this full ride, I mean, Born to Run, the drumming on Born to Run is so iconic. It's like a saga,
right.
Now,
is that him on that?
Yeah, that's him, right?
Because they had a drummer named Mad Dog.
Yeah, he was on the first 2 records.
And that's not Mad Dog on that?
Mad Log, no. Let me look. No, it's Vinny Mad Dog Lopez or whatever. Born to Run, Wikipedia, just checking right here. The players on here are, here we go. Drums. Max Weinberg, 1 through 4, 6, and 8. Ernest Carter played on one song. Let's see, what's track 5? Track 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, this guy, it looks like this guy, Ernest Carter, was the drummer on Born to Run. Only that
Wow.
song. Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't sound like Max to me. It's like super, like almost jazzy in a way.
That's
like,
a trip, right? Because Max played on the whole rest of the record.
That's so crazy that that's
Yeah.
not him.
That's wild. One song.
The most
you know why,
iconic-
though? Because they demoed Born to Run first.
Oh,
That's what they did. They recorded Born to Run first and took it to the label because they were going to drop them. And then the label was like, this is great. And they put it out as a single, and it's killing. And they go, now go do the record. So they're in there doing the record forever. I mean, you know, if you watch that documentary on Jimmy Iovine, it's wild, you know. It's, man, recording's so funny, right? It's just kind of like when you see all the stuff like this, the secrets on it. Like, there's a bunch of different bass players on here, and
oh right, Jimmy Iovine started with him, didn't he? Didn't he start it?
yeah. I mean, he's basically
He was like a New York.
yeah. I mean, he records
Engineer,
this record. He said he basically was going to die doing it, you know, which is crazy.
That guy's like, I mean,
Oh.
Springsteen has done some iconic records for sure, man.
Mike Appel, John Lando are the producers, but Jimmy Iovine was like the label guy or whatever on this, right? I mean, from what I remember from the documentary, it was just crazy. I'm trying to find it right here. It was crazy, though. Like, to watch that doc, you know, because then Jimmy goes to Tom Petty after. So he's just killing it, you know? All right. There it is. Another
There you go.
episode of Let There Be Talk with an incredible drummer. Man, that was a great episode, dude. Great one. Check out cactusradionetwork.com for all your podcast needs. I've got all the shows up there. Dark Fonzie, At Home with Byron Katie, The Grail, and Let There Be Talk. And also DeanDelRey.com for all the tour dates. There are tour dates starting to happen, believe it or not. Thank you for your support. And patreon.com/Dean Del Rey for bonus episodes. Candles lit.